join as we go through the meeting. So first of all, can I just ask everyone to mute their microphone unless they're invited to speak, and do feel free to turn on your video in addition to your microphone when you are invited to make a contribution, which hopefully you will do as we go through the agenda this evening. The first item is the notice of recording. So that is to advise everyone that this meeting is being recorded, and it will be made available on the council's website, I think, for the future. Can I then just welcome both of you at the moment, I think. Can I welcome Roger and Mrs. Milligan to this meeting? Hopefully you're going to find what we're going to talk about interesting. I see Linda Bradbury's now arrived as well. The first thing we're going to talk about this evening is COVID-19 and the update on where we are with dealing with the virus, and indeed some information about the rollout of the vaccination. I believe, Elizabeth, this is going to be pretty good news this evening, because the data has all been moving in the right direction, case rates falling, etc., etc. And of course, the vaccine is being very successfully rolled out by our colleagues in the National Health Service. And as I was saying earlier, I am very much looking forward to getting to the front of the queue and getting my vaccination in due course. So, Elizabeth, over to you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. And yes, it's really nice to be able to come to you with a rosier picture than normal. So as you know, we're in the middle of our third lockdown, and the government has presented the roadmap now for lockdown. So this is a series of landmarks that are staged at 5-week intervals to show us how we can move back to our normal way of doing things, depending on vaccination update, the pressures that we see come through on the NHS, continued reduction in case rates, and any new variant challenges that might come. But as Councillor Ward says, yes, we are seeing rates continue to decline across the country. In Birmingham, it's no different. We're seeing a reduction in the number of cases that we have. We're now, latest was at 86.5 per 100,000 up to the 5th of March, and that's down from 130 per 100,000 the week previously. So you can see that we are continuing to reduce. We're seeing, thankfully, we are now seeing a reduction in the number of deaths as well, the reduction in hospital admissions. So it's all coming down in the direction we want across the board. Just to put those case rates into a context for you, we had just under 1,000 cases in the last week, so 988 in all of Birmingham in the last 7 days up to the 5th of March, and that's about a 30% decrease that we had the week before. When I look at the Shard End data, well, actually, wards in Birmingham, we're mainly seeing under 25 cases in a week, and Shard End is at the higher end of that. So I think in the last week we had 25 cases in Shard End. That puts us at 9th out of the 69 wards. And when I look at your rates for the last 3 weeks, it's been in and around that 20 cases a week for the last 3 weeks. In terms of what we're doing, there's no surprise that there's continuing to be an awful lot of work going on to address COVID around our comms and engagement. I know I've spoken to you before about our COVID champions. We're now at 766 across the city, and these champions have a weekly question and answer session. They have regular texts and emails. There's still only 3 in the Shard End area, and I know Councillor Ward is one of those. We're really aiming for 11, so if I could encourage the few people on the line to sign up for COVID Champions, I'm happy to put the link in the chat as soon as I've finished talking. Vaccination, Councillor Ward touched on this. This is going really well in the city. So as you know, vaccines currently prioritised on age and clinical risk and whether people are a care home or clinical NHS staff. And the focus has very much been on preventing those at risk of a severe outcome from COVID. So it's focusing on preventing death and really serious disease rather than reducing transmission at this stage. So if you're invited for a vaccine, you can book through the NHS website, and again, happy to share those links if anyone needs that. And our colleagues in the NHS have set up their own website with frequently asked questions should anyone need any of that. Looking at the data, so I can see uptake for Shard End, and it's really good, to be honest. So higher than the Birmingham average for all age groups, actually. So really good take up, actually slightly lower in the 55 to 59-year-olds. So the new age groups that are just coming online, very slightly lower uptake, but the uptake on the more older categories and the clinically extremely vulnerable, much higher than the Birmingham rates at the moment. So that's really good for those population groups. Testing is the other thing that we are really going at pace on, and no different to last time. If you've got symptoms, you can still get tests through the government test sites, and whether that's through one of the drive-through centres or one of the static test centres, or whether you have a test from home, you're still able to do that. If you don't have any symptoms, we're really encouraging anyone who has to leave their home for part of their work, or if they're part of a care or support bubble for children going into school, they should be testing regularly twice a week. And they can do that either through a wide range of community test centres. The closest to you, of course, is the Shard End Wellbeing Centre. One of our 86 pharmacies that are currently offering it. We've got 3 mobile sites across the city. We've also got testing through, actually, I will include a link in the text that has a map to the closest test centres, because that will be useful information for you. There's been slight changes. I think you'll probably be aware the government is now offering tests for workplaces, and again, really encouraging those workplaces that have to have people on site to get those tested regularly. And of course, there's the school testing now as well that the government is doing directly with schools themselves. And just finally, I wanted to talk to you about variants of concern, and this is where the virus can mutate, and in response the government has asked us to undertake surge testing in any area that they might see some of these variants of concern pop up. At the moment, the UK variant makes up the vast majority of cases, so 98% of Birmingham cases are currently of the UK variant. There's no evidence of a worse outcome from this, but it does mean that the transmission, so how it passes from person to person, is increased. What we have done, and Birmingham is one of the earlier areas to have an Operation Eagle outbreak, a response, and this is where we undertake surge testing, and Birmingham was really successful in our Operation Eagle. We had over 12,500 tests that we were able to get people in the city to undertake over a 2-week period in a very tightly defined area. So that's just one of the things that we are doing should we become aware of any of these variants of concern, and they're ones that might either increase the rate of spread, so transmissions increased, or be potential for the vaccine to not work as well potentially, or if there's any a risk of having a worse outcome from the disease as well. So all of those are really tightly monitored. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have on any of this, and I'm sure Councillor Wood will also support if there's anything I can't answer.
Thanks very much, Elizabeth. Anybody got any questions or comments about? Yeah, Roger?
I'd just say that anybody listening that's housebound, if they need to make arrangements for a vaccine, they should do that in the first instance through their GP. And if the GP doesn't have a service to come out, it can be organised through Birmingham Community Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust, who will do it through the district nurses.
Thanks very much for that, Roger. That's useful information. Elizabeth?
And absolutely right. Thank you, Roger, for mentioning that. And just to add to that, really, we're also looking to be able to provide testing for those people who are housebound as well. And again, working closely with Community Healthcare Trust on that. So as soon as we've got that in place, we will publicise that information for you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any comments on this? I think it's fair to say, isn't it, Elizabeth, that the actual early data coming back about the vaccine is very, very encouraging, that it significantly reduces your, significantly reduces your chance of dying, first of all, but also significantly reduces your chances of going to hospital. And then there was some emerging data, I think last week, that if you are vaccinated and then do manage to catch the virus, that the likelihood of you passing it on to someone else is also very, very much diminished. So it's all good news around the vaccine at the moment.
And that's coming through from international research too. So very much the vaccines were intended to reduce those outcomes of really serious disease. So if you did get COVID, that you were less likely to have a severe response that might end up in death or in the more severe cases. But what the data is now showing us, as more people are getting it, is, as Councillor Ward says, that it is reducing that transmission, so that spread from person to person. So really good news. Also probably worth saying, I have mentioned variants of concern. There is ongoing research, obviously, with the vaccines, and so people are very much looking into whether, you know, we can offer boosters potentially for future variants that might come on the horizon at a later date. So it's constantly evolving and certainly been a really good success story.
Right, Roger?
Yeah, I'm just going to sort of mention the fact that there is a certain amount of concern about vaccine reluctance, hesitation. I'm not sure it affects this ward quite so much as others. I know some areas of the city it is as low as 31% uptake. I understand that there are various attempts to get community leaders together to send out messages within their communities and within different languages being used. We BCHC had a look at the number of instances where in clinical practice we had to use a language translation service. It's happened in the last 12 months about 6,000 times. Not surprising. But what is surprising is that we used 139 different languages. Mm. I share that with you purely for the fact that it'd be very easy to come up with, say, oh, we'll do half a dozen and think that we're covering the city, and we're not.
No,
it was so surprising that it could be that many.
Thank you, Roger. And yes, you're right. It's not so much of an issue in the Chardin ward. Looking at your uptake figures, I can see that they're really high in comparison to the Birmingham average. But there is a wide range of work going on this, because obviously we want to get that vaccine uptake as high as possible. So work to understand the reasons why people might not be taking up, addressing those concerns, addressing falsehoods on social media. So myth busting, a lot of that. You're right, an awful lot of work in different community languages, working with different community organisations, faith leaders, other community leaders. Our Champions Network is really key for that. So we continue to push messaging on that. We've offered a wide range of road shows across the city as well, but happy to take any views on anyone else that has suggestions, because it's an evolving piece and we want to do it well.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I noticed that Roger had found the electronic hand. For those of you who are not familiar with the Teams platform, you can see at the top of the screen a kind of little round face and a hand. If you just hover over that, it will allow you then to click onto the raised hand symbol, which will allow you to raise your hand and indicate that you'd like to speak. Anything else then on COVID-19 and the vaccine. The way out of this is, of course, for us all to get vaccinated, which on the latest stage, I think, from the government, they are saying that we will all have been offered a vaccine. That's those of us who are over the age of 18, I assume we all are in this meeting, will have been offered a vaccine by the end of July, I think. So that, again, is encouraging. We just need to take the vaccine and then we'll all be in a more comfortable position. Although I should say that once you're vaccinated does not mean that you can then stop following all of the guidance. We all still have to follow all of the guidance at the moment until there's more information about the vaccine itself and its impact. But also, let's bear in mind, we're not going to be entirely safe until everybody around the world has been vaccinated. Okay, if there's no further questions or comments on this, we'll move on to the next item. Thanks very much, Elizabeth. If you have things to do, by all means, do feel free to leave us.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Thanks very much. Right, the next item on the agenda is the Future Parks Accelerator and the Green Champions Programme. One of the really great things about living in Chardenne, I think, is the amount of green space that we have in the ward. We are very, very well blessed with the country park that we have here in Chardenne. It's huge space and you can lose yourself in the middle of it and imagine you're way out into the countryside. So it's one of the real assets of Chardenne ward. And you may also have seen in the press this week that Birmingham, the city of Birmingham, has for the second year running been awarded the status of a tree city for the number of trees and the caring of trees in this city. And then, as I've mentioned, we now have this Future Parks Accelerator Green Champions programme. And to tell us about that programme, we have Sophie Green. So I'll pass over to Sophie. She can talk to us about how we can get involved in becoming a green space champion. Sophie.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Hello everybody. So Sophie Green or Sophie Hislam, COVID wedding this year. So if there's any confusion around the name, that's why. I have got some slides, if that's okay to share with you. Just it's a little bit easier for me to have a few diagrams, if that's okay. So
that's great.
Sharing that now with you. And please forgive me. Hamira normally attends these meetings, but I've agreed to attend this one. So let's see how it goes. So the Naturally Birmingham, can everyone see that before I start rambling on?
Yes, Sophie, we can.
Brilliant, fantastic, thank you. So Naturally Birmingham, or the Future Parks Accelerator as it's known, is a project that's funded by the National Heritage Lottery Fund and National Trust. We're one of 8 nationwide, and it was originally a 2-year project. However, given the fact that we've been in lockdown for most of it, we have been granted an extension, which is really allowing us to kind of embed the value of green spaces across the city, focusing on kind of 4 key areas: jobs and skills, housing, health and wellbeing, and the children's pilot. And as you can see, there's a diagram here, and I will share these slides with yourselves afterwards as well. So my part within the Future Parks Accelerator project is looking after the jobs and skills pilot. So I'll be able to give you a little bit more information about that and a very brief overview on the other 3, although they are heavily overlapped and interlinked. So fantastic. So as you can see here, there's kind of 2 maps, one of which blue and the other one is showing the green areas within Birmingham. I think when you look at this map, and this is a very general sweeping statement, is kind of the more affluent the area, the more green spaces there are. And we really want to ensure that, there is a green space for everyone within the city, and it's easy to access and, promote everything fantastic that the green sector does have to offer. And if you have any more questions about these couple of maps, then please do just pop it in the chat, and I'll take it back to Hamira, who will be able to give you a lot more information about these 2 maps and a lot more depth and kind of what they represent as well. So here I've just listed a couple of the areas within Chardenne that we can help you with through the Future Parks Accelerator. And I know you've just mentioned the massive country park that you're blessed to have, and it's a beautiful space. The water is so relaxing, having visited myself. So I've just listed a couple of the others on there, and if any of them are wrong, or if we're missing any key ones, then please do let us know so we can update our database. And I'd be really interested to kind of know if there's any Friends of Parks groups or community groups within the area that kind of have a focus on the green spaces, and we can link you up with Birmingham Open Spaces Forum and make sure that you guys are in touch with them moving forward. So, as I mentioned, we have 4 key areas within the Future Parks Accelerator that we're working on, one of which is the children's pilot that's been looked after by the Children's Trust. And we're looking at how, within the children's pilot, we're looking at how we can make the park mean more to local residents, how we can help the schools in the local area through green education, working very closely with forest school leaders as well. Recently in the children's pilot at Dorbury Fields, we set up a nature trail, and there was a big increase of families visiting the park. And I think parks have played a very key element through lockdown, as they have been, the one place where we have been able to go, either for exercising, socialising, or just actually getting a bit of fresh air on a much needed lunch break or fresh air break, just away from the screen as well. Part of the children's pilot, we created a programme called Park Stars, which is part of our Park Ambassadors piece of work that we're looking at. And what it is to become a Park Star is anyone that's under 16 that wants to know a little bit more about their green space, or wants to encourage other young people to get out and learn within the green space. We've created almost a passport that people can log on to our website and download, and we've circulated it with schools as well. And it has 6 elements on it. So one, this is going to test me now remembering all 6, but we've got observe, grow, move, trail, quiz, and the 6 ones escaped me, but essentially there's 6 activities. Reflect, I think, was the one I was missing. These 6 activities that kids can have a go at, and they don't necessarily have to be done in a park. They can be done, in a garden, or at a forest school, or a green space within a school or college. And it's just a case of saying, go along, have a go at these activities, tick them off. Once you've ticked them off, we can give you a certificate. So just really encouraging young people to get out and explore their green spaces. And finally, on the children's pilot, in relation to Dorbury Fields, which is the test pilot site for the children's pilot, we've recently launched a crowdfunding project for slow worms. And the lizards that are residents of Dorbury Fields, and that is to create a habitat for these lizards and slow worms to encourage them remaining in that space. And we've actually been really lucky to reach our £2,000 target. So work on that project will be starting very soon. I'll give you. I'll take any questions at the end. I appreciate I'm probably rambling and throwing quite a lot of information at you. So the employment pilot, which is the one I'm working on, is obviously what can we do to break down the stereotypes of who works in parks, and encourage young people to consider the green sector. What we've learned, and what I've learned from speaking with 16 to 24-year-olds, is that there's this perception that it's just horticulture and mowing the lawns and weeding and emptying the bins within the parks, when actually there's a whole host of activities and careers out there. We've got engineering, environmental management, horticulturalists, arboriculturists, ecologists, and just really talking to people about those careers and how they get into those opportunities. So what we would have loved to have done at Ward End Park, which is the home of the employment pilot, is to have had a big skills day in the park where we could have invited training providers, education establishments, and young people, and anyone actually that's interested in perhaps a career change, down to the park to have a go at some of the activities and learn a little bit more about the careers within the sector. For obvious reasons, we haven't been able to do that, so we took it online, and we've been creating content on our YouTube channel, skill showcase, for want of a better word, online. Just allowing people to log on and learn a little bit more, from people that are actually in those job roles. So we've got, men, women, young, old, all on there representing the green sector. And another piece of the Park Ambassador work that we've been doing is actually then looking at what's the offer for the Park Stars once they hit the 16 to 24 bracket. What is the outcome for those? If there are people interested, what are the opportunities that are out there? Myself and my colleague Tara are working with the Parks team and looking at park apprenticeships as well. And actually those 6 activities could, for 16 to 24-year-olds, could they lead into a green-based apprenticeship? So lots of stuff going on. And as I said, I can take questions at the end. Health and Wellbeing pilot is over at Whitton Lakes and has been run by the Whitton Lodge Association, and they're very much looking at improving the health and wellbeing activities within the park and looking at offering something for everybody, and empowering the community to do it for themselves. And a lot of the activities are looking at social prescribing as well, and I think we all know actually taking 10 minutes out of our day to go and get a bit of fresh air in a green space has probably got us through lockdown 1, 2 and 3. So yeah, there's lots of work going on there. And then the housing pilot, which is, I'll hold my hands up, is probably the one I know the least about. So any questions I can take back to the team, but very much looking at, it doesn't have to be a park to be a green space. It could be a verge or a community garden or a route to work or a type flowers on it. So yeah, just really looking at how we can support residents that perhaps don't necessarily have a green space on their doorstep but do have an alternative. So I'll jump on to the next slide. Just checking everyone can see me because I've just had a little, or still hear me because I've just had a little box saying I've got very poor network quality.
No, we can all hear you, Sophie.
Okay, I'll be quiet in a minute, I promise. So what can we help you with? Obviously, there's a chance to become a green champion. Again, it is what it says on the tin. We really want to get people on board that want to help promote green spaces and all that they do have to offer. So there is the link there, and I can take any questions back about that, but I'd encourage you all to go and have a little read about what the programme is and how you guys can get involved if you are interested. We're also looking to hear from communities about green spaces and tell us an Earth story. We've done one, and it's looking very much at what are your first memories of anything green? What do you think green spaces should look like in the future? And we really just want to promote how fantastic all of our parks are, and put them on the map, for want of a better word. If we don't talk about them and start using them and promoting them, we will lose them, and we really don't want that to happen. So we're here to kind of tell everybody's Earth stories. So it can be done as an individual or as a community group or a group of people, but just really putting everyone's excitement about green spaces in one place. And then just a bit of information around this £500 for community groups that can help us collect 25 stories from diverse communities. We want to hear from everybody. As mentioned, there's a lot of different community groups and a lot of different residents all speaking very different languages. Those are the diverse communities we want to talk to. Let's hear from everybody. So there is a deadline on that, and appreciate it's quite tight, seeing as we're now on the 9th of March, but I can have a chat with the team about an extension if you think you're going to get to that 25 stories, which would be fantastic. And last slide is really, what does green justice look like? It is about making sure that everybody has the same access to green spaces and can reap the same benefits. So I will be quiet and leave it there. And as I said, I have thrown a lot of information. I'll circulate the slides so you guys have the links to everything, so you can find out a little bit more information in your own time. And yeah, thank you for listening to me waffle on, and I will mute myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sophie. That was far from waffling on. That was all very, very interesting. You've answered one of the questions actually that was in the chat, and about could you share either the slides or the links. So you're going to do that, so that helps. Donald, you've posted in the chat that 3 trees have been cut down by the lake just off Pittle Road, but not replaced. Well, they certainly should have been replaced, because the council's policy is for every tree that's taken down, 2 have to be planted. So I'll try and find out from the Parks Department what they've done about that. They've probably planted the new trees in a slightly different location. That may be what's happened there. But in terms of the Green Park Champions, anybody any comments or questions on what we've heard from Sophie? I do think it's a particularly good initiative if we can get some people involved in Shard Ward, not least because, as I said at the very beginning, the country park that we have here is a real asset for the area. Mrs. Milligan.
Hi, I'm the head teacher at Guardian Angels Catholic Primary in Shard End, and just wondered whether that information could be sent to us, and then we can share it in our newsletter and try and engage some of the community that way, potentially.
That's a very good point, Sophie. Are we getting this information out to schools?
Yeah, we are. We should. I was under the understanding it was all going out to the schools, but I'll jot down the email address now directly. But I will chase up again with the team to make sure that it is definitely going out. But it should be. But I imagine that we've probably sent one email about one thing, and then there's probably been bombarded about kind of all the different elements, because what we found with the FPA is we kind of came up with hundreds of ideas, and it's just taken us quite a long time to get them all set up. So rather than having a lovely newsletter with everything on, it's probably all come across in fragments. So no, fully appreciate that feedback, and we'll get the information across to you.
Yeah, it's just so that we could drip feed it in our newsletters as well, to try and get it into the community and see if we can get some children involved from a school perspective, and that they might have a knock-on effect throughout recreational time. So we'd like to be involved if possible.
Thank you. Thanks very much for that. Anyone else? Any comments? Okay. Can I thank then Sophie for your presentation and for coming along this evening. Thanks very much for that. We'll now move on then to the next item, which are a set of local updates. So I won't actually start with myself. Let me start with the local police team, because we've got PC Boriston, who's here with us this evening. He's going to give us an update on policing in the area. Hi.
Hi, good evening. Sorry I was a little bit late to join. We had some technical issues. Can everyone see and hear me okay?
Yep.
Fantastic. Okay, firstly, just apologies from Sergeant Goldsmith and Sergeant Jenkins. They're both not in today, so unfortunately you've got me. But I'll do my best to answer any questions you have and just give you a little bit of an update on what the team's been doing in the last couple of months. So firstly, obviously we've been really busy doing a lot of COVID enforcement and doing a lot of patrol within the community, both on foot and in vehicles. So if you've seen us out and about and you've said hello, we're very grateful. It does help when people are happy to see us. We have had some crime headlines as well to give you. So luckily, because of COVID, with everyone being inside, crime is still way down. So across the board, we've got robbery down 30%, vehicle crime down 40%, and burglary down about 20%. So all of those are fantastic news for us, and they do help when we're so busy at the minute with lots of different competing priorities. Obviously, we do have some not so good news around violence and knife crime. However, we would say that that falls in line with national trends across the board. Don't know if anyone is aware, but we're having kind of an audit of our crime recording at the minute within West Midlands Police, which has seen basically an uptick in terms of what we are recording as crime. Basically, if there's been an incident and we've attended, we're having it audited to make sure we're criming the correct thing. So some of that uptick will just be a natural result of that. So in terms of force priorities at the minute, for West Midlands Police, it's basically COVID, community safety, tackling domestic violence, and particular focus on youth violence. So in terms of the team, what that's meant for us, we've been out, we've been about, we've been doing lots of COVID enforcement, responding to any COVID breaches that have come in, particularly on lates like tonight. We're on till 11 o'clock, and a lot of our shift will be spent responding to those calls. On an early shift, it has meant we are basically hoovering up domestic violence offenders who are outstanding wanted from the previous week. So, you know, from I'd say, you know, 7 in the morning till well past lunchtime, we're out, we're getting those people who are quite violent offenders off our streets and into custody. And then in terms of the youth crime, it's meant we're managing a lot of young offenders, both within Shard End and kind of on the outside of our ward, who are committing offences within our ward. And again, obviously managing those young people and you know, making sure they're getting the support, the help, the referrals that they need does take up a large amount of our time. Sergeant Goldsmith wanted me to highlight that we are looking at getting Street Watch and Speed Watch set back up. So if anyone's interested in those, I can pop the details in the teams at the end about how you can get involved in those. And we're hoping that as soon as the COVID restrictions start to ease, we'll get those back up and running again in full strength, because we basically rely so much on our community, and you know that they are such a huge asset to us. In terms of what we've been doing around some of the priorities that were raised in the last meeting, so antisocial behaviour and youth issues, basically we know that this affects everyone within the ward, and we know that it can be a day-to-day problem for a lot of people. And we know that obviously even some more of the lower level stuff can still have a major impact on your lives. So we do have a lot of powers that we can use, and the whole team has had quite a lot of training recently on, you know, a lot of our civil powers and basically how we can target individuals, often young people, but all kinds of ages, if they haven't quite reached that point of committing offences, so committing crime, what some of the other tools we have to deal with that behaviour is, that antisocial behaviour. So hopefully we'll be looking at implementing some of that in the near future. We have recently got a community behaviour order. So what that is it's a civil order on a member of our community who's causing quite a lot of antisocial behaviour, and that order gives us powers to restrict, you know, the number of people he's within a group, what he can do in terms of being allowed on motorbikes and vehicles, and if he breaches that, we can actually arrest him and put him in front of a court. So it's a really powerful order. It did take a lot of work, but we believe it's had a massive impact on his behaviour. That's something we'd be looking at rolling out to quite a few of our other problem young offenders for sure. In terms of good news, we have had some fantastic work being done by the team around off-road bikes. We know that particularly in our lovely park spaces, as was just talked about, that they are a persistent problem, particularly on weekends, on Sundays, when the weather is nice. If people have had a chance to have a look at the newsletter, it kind of highlights some of the good work we've been doing around that, you know, the amount of seizures and some of the operations we've been putting on during COVID. Just last weekend, we had a very, very successful plainclothes operation where we stopped and we basically managed to speak to over 20 plus off-road bikes and the individuals who had them. And what was actually quite shocking to us, we found that a lot of those were young people who lived locally. So we thought that quite a lot of the people on the off-road bikes within the parks were coming from some distance away, which turned out not to be the case at all. You know, like I said, the vast majority lived next to the park or very near the park. So, you know, they are basically affecting their own community. So we did a lot of education around them, a lot of, you know, more sending them home with the bikes than seizing them on this occasion. And when we continue the operations next week, we'll be looking at seizing them if we have any repeat offenders. But like I said, we were quite shocked to see that they were you know, very local people by and large. And then finally, sergeants wanted me to just speak a little bit about speed enforcement. So we're aware that just because COVID has stopped a lot of us leaving our homes, it hasn't stopped everybody, and that speeding is an issue that's raised to us a fair bit. We did do a speed enforcement operation on Tarlcross Road a couple of weeks ago. Not hugely successful in terms of the amount of people we caught speeding, but that is not the aim of a lot of our speeding operations. What we're really looking to do is deter people from speeding in the first place, which I think we were quite successful in doing, because I know how fast that road is normally, and trust me, people were driving far, far slower than they normally would be. So what we're hoping is that, people will see us there, and the next time they drive down that road, they'll remember, oh, there was, a police speed operation here, so I'm going to drive particularly carefully and particularly slowly. And it is all about education, and it's all about, trying to keep people's speed down more than catching people and finding them, which doesn't always have a really long-lasting impact in the first place. So we'll be looking at doing a few more of those in the coming weeks, obviously demand allowing, and also getting our community speed watch group set back up when COVID is hopefully long gone in the near future. I think that was everything from myself in terms of some of the headlines. Oh, sorry, there was one more thing. One more thing was we've had a lot of reports around the Tilcross area, again in our parks and open spaces, around a male who was exposing himself to various members of the community. Don't know how many people are aware of it. Good news, we've managed to arrest somebody and he has been remanded in custody. So we are hoping that will bring an end to those reports. We acted very quickly, and between ourselves and the Chelmsley Wood team and the Stetchford team that will kind of cover the various parklands, we were able to very quickly arrest him and put those offences to him. So that is hopefully good news for everyone that affected. Thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take those. Otherwise, I'll pause for breath and hand back over.
Thank you very much. There's an awful lot in what you've just said there. Huge amount of things that you've been doing. So anybody, any comments, any questions for the police? You're being very reticent this evening.
No difficult questions, I like that.
I missed actually, what was the road you said you've been doing the speed enforcement on?
We did one on Tile Cross Road, Ian. Tile
Cross.
So we did it over Tile Cross Way. We've done them before around Packington Avenue and closer to where the police station is. And we just move around really. Wherever people are saying that there's a problem, we're happy to go there. We can be quite mobile and quite fast. So if anyone has any particular roads that they want us to look at, we're more than happy to do that.
Yeah, there's a bit of
On
irony
social
in there.
media.
You'll be quite fast in responding to speeding cars. Sorry, Roger, you carry on. Go ahead, Roger.
I was just going to say, on social media, Brownfield Road comes up quite a lot.
For speeding.
Yeah, we've been on Brownfield Road before. I agree with you. It is a very fast road. People absolutely fly down there. I think they're avoiding the Heathway, and they do speed down there. So it is on the list. Thank you for raising that, Roger.
And somebody, Astrid has mentioned Ownall Road, which surprises me a little bit. I think the issue on Brownfield Road is though that people turn off the Chester Road, don't they, because of the speed trap that's along the Chester Road, and then they shoot down Brownfield Road to get around that speed trap. Yeah,
exactly. I'm surprised about Ownall as well because of the amount of pedestrians and parked cars there. But we'll have a look at that, Astrid, because that's a very, very dangerous place if people are speeding there.
Yeah, sorry about that. I put myself on mute because kids are around as usual. But yeah, they're not speeding fast, obviously, because they can't go extremely fast here. But because it is a place where we always, we don't have any zebra crossing or anything like that. So that is one problem, one. And two, because obviously there's always people walking around, cars accelerate really, really fast here on this road, especially when they get to the corner where the church is. And as soon as they go a straight line, they do go very fast. I've been shouting at many people, I'm going to be honest. So yeah, for the safety of, pedestrians here, it'd be appreciated if something could be done about it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, and we'll see if we can maybe do some more foot patrol around there. Just someone in high vis potentially will put people off going so fast around that corner. But yeah, very dangerous area to be doing any great speed, to be fair.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Well, thank you very much. That's, as I said earlier, there was an awful lot in what you've told us this evening. So thanks very much for that. And hopefully we'll be able to see you at future meetings of Sharding Ward Forum.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you. Okay, next is an update from any community groups. There are two listed. Chardin Communities, so that's you, Roger, or Blueprint, so that's you, Astrid. So Roger, first, anything from you?
Nothing other than the appeal. Not many people here, but yes, anybody that knows of anybody who'd like to volunteer to come and help any one of the community groups. We are trying to continue through lockdown using social media. We've been relaying messages from Birmingham City Council about dustbins and collections, and from the police. And I do hope that obviously some of that was helpful with the arrest of a gentleman recently that been flashing around the parks. Yes, very distressing now for some people. Very distressing. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, help wanted.
Thanks, Roger.
I'll pass over to Astrid.
Yeah, Astrid.
Apologies for mobile.
Yeah, okay, we'll note that. Astrid, anything from you?
Sorry, I don't have much to add. It's been a challenging month for me and my business partner, so we weren't able to do the surveying that we wanted to do in order to do a proper presentation for you. We still, sorry, kids. Hold on 2 seconds, I'm gonna close the door. I need to be quiet for a second, okay? All right, so I shall try to make this short and sweet. We are still developing the project, but to develop the project for Chardin and how we want to use the green space, is extremely important to speak to the public and to local people to see what they really want to see and what changes they want to see locally. So we've been talking about, you know, sitting areas, creating a welcome to Chardin space, and also reusing the spaces we have on All Saints Square to make it much more friendly for kids and for young people. So we're in the process of working towards that. As soon as I've got something concrete and physical and visual to show, I will do this hopefully next meeting. But I'm really sorry, this time around I'm not capable of doing that at the moment.
Not to worry. We shall look forward to hearing from you at the next meeting then. Let me move on then, or move back to myself. And I've got 4 things I just want to let you all know about. First of all, Chardin Crescent. State of the road on Chardin Crescent is, well, it's disgraceful, actually, if I'm honest. So I have reported that to Highways and the need for the whole of that road, in my view, to be resurfaced. So hopefully we may see something happen on that over the coming months. Secondly, fly tipping. I'm very much aware that since the first lockdown, almost 12 months ago now, can you believe, there's been a real outbreak of fly tipping right across the city. The City Council has had some very high profile prosecutions of people they've caught fly tipping, but nonetheless, here in Chardin, there's an awful lot of fly tipping going on at the moment. I'm receiving a lot of emails about various fly tip sites across the ward, and I'm getting the refuse team to come around and clear these sites up. But we really need, I think, as a city as a whole, to come to a solution that prevents the fly tipping in the first place, because it's costing a small fortune going around clearing up after these irresponsible people who are fly tipping rubbish everywhere. But I am aware of that problem, and we're going to try to do something more about it as we go into the next financial year, because in the budget that the council set last week, an extra £2 million has been set aside to deal with this issue across the city. I'll come back to you in a second, Roger, when I've finished. Third issue was one of speeding on Packington Avenue, and particularly a number of accidents that have occurred on the junction of Packington Avenue and Chardin Crescent. And I've managed to get hold of some funding, and what we're going to do over the coming months is put some speed cushions at that location to slow down the traffic on Packington Avenue and make that junction with Chardin Crescent a little less dangerous. So you should see that work taking place over the coming months. And then finally, I just wanted to say something about Commonwealth Games, because hopefully you are aware that Birmingham is hosting the Commonwealth Games in the summer of next year, and it's a fantastic opportunity for Birmingham. Biggest event that we've ever attempted to host, and it is the third largest multi-sporting event in the world. So a fantastic opportunity for the city and all of its people. And I'm very keen that all communities right across Birmingham feel that the Games is for them and they have some ownership of the Games. So the council has launched a Celebrating Communities Small Grants Fund, particularly aimed at the Commonwealth Games. And there are 3 themes to this funding. It's £2 million in total right across the city, but then there are allocations for each individual ward. And the 3 themes that you can bid into this money for are, first of all, get active, so encouraging local communities to get out and get active by participating in sport and recreational activities. So proposals around things like active streets, active parks, community games, etc. The second theme is Ready, Steady, Fun, and this is designed about getting communities games ready and celebrating communities having fun. So this is almost any project really that's about the community here in Shard End coming together to celebrate the Games, and it can be anything around developing active citizenship, reducing loneliness and self-isolation. So it's pretty broad, that categorisation. And then thirdly, celebrating culture. So any community-led cultural events or initiatives that will encourage intergenerational activities in particular, and any project that focuses on Birmingham's place in the Commonwealth, the story of Birmingham and its residents, unheard histories, or engagement between communities of different locations or different identities, anything really that would increase the pride that people feel from being a Brummie or living and working in Birmingham. So this funding has recently been launched, and there is a deadline for the first round of bids by June of this year. So I'm really keen that here in Shard End we get you as the local communities to be thinking about bids and bringing forward proposals that you can put forward that can then access the funding that's available. And the process for that is that any bid has to come through the ward forum and effectively be agreed by the ward forum. What I'll do is I'll get somebody who's behind this funding to come to the next ward committee meeting, which is next month in April, and they can talk in a bit more detail about this funding that's available for local communities, and hopefully we'll get some bids come forward, and we as a community here in Shard End can be part of the Games and celebrating the Games as we go through the next 12 months. Okay, Roger, you had a question.
A couple actually. On the fly tipping, do you think that the charges at the council level on bulk collections and or garden waste collections might be contributing to the spread of fly tipping? Perhaps if we revisited some of those policies or revisited the amounts levied, it might be just as easy for people to pay the city to take it away rather than tip it at night.
Yeah, and there may be some truth in what you've just said there, Roger. Although what I would say is that the explosion of fly tipping did coincide with the first lockdown last March. So I do think certain people, and indeed often this can be businesses in actual fact. Certainly I had a site cleared just off Hartshill Road last week, and they found some evidence of a commercial operation in Leicestershire, would you believe, who may have fly tipped the rubbish in that particular location. So I think some of this is just taking advantage of the streets being quieter during the lockdown. But you are right about revisiting some of these charges. So we're not really in a position to revisit the charge on green waste collection. Indeed, if we were to do that, what we discover is that it is the wealthier parts of Birmingham, Sutton Coldfield in particular, that are subsidised by the less wealthier parts of Birmingham when it comes to green waste. Before we had the charge for taking green waste, most of the green waste being removed from properties in Birmingham was in Sutton Coldfield, as opposed to some of the more deprived locations. But I think you've got a point on the bulk waste collection charge, and we are now revisiting that, and we're in particular having a look at whether we could remove that charge for any households that are in receipt of benefit, so that we target the removal of the charge at those who have least. So I'll have to come back to you on where we get to at that. On that.
And I also say pensioners.
Oh, well, yeah, that's another good point. Yeah, and certainly pensioners who are in receipt of is it income support that they get if they're below something? Pension credit, yeah. Pensioners in receipt of pension credit, we should look at excluding them from the charge. I agree.
Well, I mean, at the moment, if I want to throw out a chair, just a dining chair or something like that, it's going to cost me, what, £30? So I could take it out and leave it in Brownfield Road after dark.
Providing you don't get caught, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, the other question I was going to ask you was All Saints Square, the perennial, but also with All Saints Square and going back to the Commonwealth Games and something that you and I have talked about in the past. Is this an occasion when we might want to think and talk again about the idea of an outdoor cinema? Part of the Commonwealth Games could be shown on a screen in All Saints Square. Now, do we do that as part of the scheme that you mentioned, or what? What's the best way to do that?
I think you could put a bid together as part of the scheme, depending on how much something like that would cost. But it's a very, very good idea to do something in All Saints Square about that. And on the first issue about the repairs, the ongoing repairs and maintenance of that square, I am aware that Alan Porter, the local engineer, has had a further conversation with the managing agent. I'm not aware of the outcome, unfortunately. What I think I'll do is I'll get Alan to come to the next meeting, which is going to be on April the 6th.
The last I heard was that the managing agents were bringing in an expert to help them identify what really needs to be done. They are considering taking legal action against Barrett's contractor. Good luck with that. I can't see it as that it wasn't their contractor. I can't see how they could take legal action. But that's up to them. They are obviously planning to maybe pick this up further down the road, the fact that they're bringing in an expert. And they were saying that they were going to put it out to tender, which I think is a delaying tactic. But obviously, one of the things we might do is take over the green parts around the square. But that's something that Astrid is looking at.
Good. I will get Alan to come to the meeting on April the 6th to talk about this and to update everybody on where we are with it. Oh, right. Astrid's posting in the chat that this is the last year to take action against Barrett, apparently.
Yes, sorry, because I live on top of the shops, so I own a flat here, and I know when they've been built, and I know this. We ourselves with a group of other owners, we're already taking action against the Angles Clarion, who is the managing agents, due for the causes of service charge, and they're charging us way too much. But yes, this is the last year, and there is a 10-year warranty for any buildings that's been done, and I believe this is the last year. So they should be able to normally, do any work properly if we really press them.
Okay, let me, as I say, get Alan to come to the next meeting. Bev, if you could get in touch with Alan and ask him to come along on the 6th of April.
Yep, sorted, will do.
Thank you. Right, anything else in particular for me, or indeed, because the next item on the agenda is any resident concerns. So if anybody's got any issues generally about things in Shard End, now is your chance. I'm struggling to believe there would be nothing you'd be unhappy about in the ward that you wouldn't want to raise. No, nobody. And if nobody has an issue they want to take up, I think, unless anybody has an item of any other business, that probably brings us to the end of the
I think it's because there's so few of us here. Yeah.
Well, yes, that's very true. When we were in a position to hold physical meetings, we did get a reasonable attendance at these forum meetings. I guess it can be a little trickier if you haven't got the relevant IT and connection to take part in these virtual meetings, but we're stuck with this until the summer, I think. Astrid?
Yeah, sorry. I was thinking it's something that we've discussed also with some members of the public. There is the shop that seems to be available, that the Welcome Change charity shop is now available. We do not have a proper space for the community to come to or to discuss or to report any problem or to come together as a community. Could we potentially maybe look at, as a community, taking a place that could be used for the community?
Well, isn't there the opportunity to use the community centre on Packington Avenue and simply using a room there?
Well, it's been used as a vaccination centre. You actually managed to evict a food bank from.
Oh God! Or
which has been it's now been reaccommodated by Welcome. As far as the forum meetings are concerned, we're in the library, but obviously we haven't gone back to the library.
And that's why I was thinking, like, if we have an actual space that could be open at different hours, that could be run by the community. But at least if we get the rent covered somewhere somehow.
Well, the other option I would suggest would be Aylesford Hall, and the library. I forget now the date at the top of my head. Somebody else may know. Either Pat or Bev may know the answer to this, but libraries are due to open in the near future, I think. They're one of the first things after schools that the government are going to allow to open up again. So maybe by the time we meet in April, there might be some more options, Astrid, around places for the local community to meet. Yeah,
that would be great. If it could be something that is independent and is not related to anybody else and is really truly owned by Shardend or run by Shardend community, that would be best.
Well, Aylesford Hall is locally run because there's a lady called Margaret Greenway who looks after Aylesford Hall. She's a local resident, and she takes the bookings for that. That might be the ideal location. Okay, if nobody's got anything else or any other item of business, I think I can let you all go. We've been going for just over an hour. Can I thank everybody for coming along this evening? Can I thank in particular Elizabeth, Sophie and PC Boriston for their reports this evening, and can I thank everybody else for your attendance and your interest in the area in which you live. Thanks very much. The next meeting will be over this platform again, I'm afraid, and it's on April the 6th, and will be again beginning at 6 p.m. And I'll try to get the message out again across some social media platforms. Let's see if we can't get a few more people to attend the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.